All right, I think we're live. Good morning, good morning. It is Toni from the Fibrology Lab, and this is Coffee Chat with me, Toni. I am doing a process of quilt basics in our morning coffee chats. I'm kind of stretching it out. Basically, what I've done is taken my Learn to Quilt class and broken it down into bite-sized segments that you can follow along. Even if you've been quilting for a while, hopefully maybe I'm giving you some information that might help you and try a different way of doing a process. You can download PDFs of each of these sessions in our Mighty Networks. If you go to Friends, Fibers with an S, fun.club, C-L-U-B, join our Mighty Networks. You're going to see a group in there called Coffee Chat. And in there, I've been posting our PDF for each session that we are going through. I think we're on session 10 or 9, something like that. I am talking about half square triangles today. We're not going to finish the block. I just want you to get you comfortable with the half square triangle piece. So come on in, say good morning. I love to give you a shout out because I do value your time, especially at this time of the year. We've got so many other things going on, and I know your time is valuable. So thank you so much for joining me live. And if you're watching this on the replay, your time is still just as valuable, and I really appreciate that. So if you are watching the replay, don't just pop in a little, hello, so I know you're watching. Hey there, Christine. Good morning to you. Hello, Miss Anna. Good morning to you as well. I'm thinking today and tomorrow, I won't have a lot of people watching because we're preparing for Turkey Day on Thursday. But I will be live again tomorrow at 10 a.m. And my next live sale will be tonight, Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern in our app, in Facebook, and Instagram, on our website. Lots of places. You can't miss it. Tonight I'm going to talk a lot about some upcoming clubs, some new things we've got kicking off in January, and some other fun things. And then our Black Friday sale, we are having one. Will be Black Friday, and I'm coming live every hour from 9 to 3. The top of the hour with a special discount code that'll only work that hour, and some other items I've got started. And then we've got the 12 days of giving going on. I am about to explode, so I might be doing some rearranging, but we are a work in progress here, and we're grateful for your patience as we are still trying to, as I am still trying to find the right rhythm for my business now here in Florida. We've been here 7 months, and so it's getting there. It's not quite there yet, but we're getting there into a new rhythm. Hey there, Larry. Good morning to you this morning. Thank you, Christine. I know this weekend's going to be fun. I've got actually a couple other things I haven't talked about. So I have a sit and sew by Zoom on Saturday. It is free, but you have to sign up. I will send everybody a code for the Zoom link for Saturday. We're just going to sit and hang out on this weekend and get to know each other and just have fun. And then there's a lot of other things. So watch tonight, watch your email. So I mentioned yesterday in my morning lab report, if you are not getting our emails, let me know. We did switch over to a new email program, so not everybody's email came over properly or didn't get assigned to the right, we call them tags, groups. So let me know, and I will make sure you get the email. We did send one last night, and I'll be sending one tomorrow, and I'll be sending one Thursday, and I'll probably be sending one Friday. So you're going to be bombarded, just so you know. I don't do that normally. So if you're like, oh, it's another email from the Fibrology Lab, just delete it if you don't want to read it, but just know this is just a special week for all of us here in the retail world, and we want to make sure you're all informed with what's going on. So it's not normal. I normally do once a week. So hey there, Linda. Good morning to you, and hope you are enjoying your sister's visit. So let's rock and roll with my new setup. I am back in my home office, but we flipped our rooms, so I have more space, but I haven't figured out the lighting or the camera angle, so this is going to be a little challenging. Just so you know, if you are following, I will be offering this as a full class with a more professional finish to it, but right now we're just trying to figure out, again, that rhythm of how to make things work here. Can you all hear me? I'm assuming you all can hear me pretty well, because I'm using a microphone. It's hidden right there. Can you see that? I have a lumpy shoulder because I have a microphone underneath it, because that hopefully dampens the sound so you don't hear the cat or the kiddos in the living room making noises. So Let me move my let me move my laptop out of the way and come to our workstation and see if I can get that camera to work. And the other thing I've had problems over the last week and a half is the blue screen of death. If you're not a computer person and you don't understand that, and I have a laptop that's only a couple years old, so it shouldn't be giving me that screen, especially after everything it's gone through this past summer. So in case we get broken up, because it's not, I don't want to break up with you, but it might happen, just come right back in. StreamYard will keep recording until I come right back in and set back up. So just keep that in mind. All right, so don't forget Friends of Friday too. That's another one thing I forgot to mention. Let me go ahead and switch over to my table. Like I said, the lighting is a little atrocious. I apologize for that, but we'll get that fixed hopefully by tomorrow when I do my next one. So, man, that's really bothering me, that square in the shadows. Okay, that works better. So we have talked about our rail fence. We have made some rail fences. We should have 15 of those. We should have some 9 patches that look like this. I think there's 4 of those. And we have some 9 patches that look like this, and we should have 2 of those. Again, all the supply list and the steps for each of these processes are in our Mighty Networks. Today we're going to talk about making this block and creating half square triangles. Now I'm going to tell you straight up, there are 20,000 ways. That's my favorite number right now, 20,000 ways to do half square triangles. I look at this is my beginner class. This is actually a block I removed from my beginner class because I felt it was too challenging for a beginner to jump in, especially when these are 2.5 inches, which makes them, that's small to do this. Doesn't mean you can't do it if you're a beginner, just means it's a challenge. And so what I am under the assumption is if you're a beginner, you're coming in with very minimal tools. You're coming in with very minimal knowledge of how to do these. So what I'm about to show you, especially if you've been doing half square triangles for a long time, this will seem super, super basic. So I'm going to show you I'm going to show you the way I teach this in class. And I actually do a follow-on class called Quilting 102 that teaches us flying geese and half square triangles and different ways to create them. So this one I'm only showing you one way, but I show like 3 or 4 in my next advanced class after beginner quilting, which I probably will do after we finish up this series. So the first thing we want to do is this half square triangle unfinished is 2.5 inches. So just remember that, 2.5 inches unfinished. Once it's in the block, it's 2 inches. But right now, I'm going to want you to keep in mind that 2.5 inch number. So what I do with this type of measurement is if I know it's 2.5 inches unfinished, I go up to the next full inch or ½ inch above that number. I want to cut 2 squares at 3 inches square. So these 2 squares, I've already sewn on them, but this is, oops, let me put it up here. I've already sewn them, but you understand this is a 3-inch square, that's a 3-inch square. This is my dark, and this is my medium. So we're using the dark and the medium. And if you want to invert it, you totally can. But so this is 2.5 inches unfinished. I'm going to cut my squares at 3 inches. Typically, it tells you to do it 2 7/8. A 7/8 is a pain in the butt to cut straight up. So let's go get that little extra fudge space for us to use and square down our half square triangles. So what you're going to do with your half square triangles, we're going to match them up in pairs. Because we are going to make 4 of these blocks, we need one 3-inch square, actually 2 3-inch squares, makes 2 half square triangles, because you can already see how that's going to work. So for each block, we need 2 of each fabrics, 2 3-inch squares for each block. So a total of 4 blocks times 2 is 8. So you need to cut 8 of your medium at 3 inches and 8 of your dark at 3 inches. The next thing we're going to do is take the one that's the lightest and the easiest one to write on and draw lines. Let me show you how I did that. Again, with the assumption that you do not have all these fancy tools that I like to use. I am going to use the 1/4" line on my ruler. This one's hard to see. There it is. Let's use that one right there. See that black line? That's the 1/4" from the edge. I'm going to put that line on the diagonal and then mark this side of it. Then I'm going to rotate my square, rinse and repeat, line that black 1/4" line on the points at the diagonal, and then mark that line again. You can use a pencil. I use a trio friction pin, not friction pin, a trio pin, and depending, because it has 3 leads, I have gray, pink, and white. Then I just mark that line. Super simple. Now I am going to show you, these are some other tools that I have. You might have an OmniGrid one that's a 1/2 inch wide and has a diagonal in it, like these 2 rulers do, and you could totally put it on there and mark both sides as well. Again, if you're a beginner, you probably only have that 6-inch square, which is what I encourage you to have for this class. So we're going to mark all those, only one fabric. You don't need to do both. We're going to mark all 8 squares with these 2 lines, a 1/4" off both sides from the seam. And then we're going to go over a sewing machine. So as you can see, I have sewn these because I figured it was a lot easier to do this live. Okay, hang on a sec. I'm looking for a funky piece. There it is. All right. So we're going to go over the sewing machine. And I don't know if I've talked about this before in this particular series. Whenever you work on a point where you're going to sew down a triangle or a hexagon or anything that's got a point, not where it's like a regular seam inch where you're coming, when you're coming down here, so there's a point there, you always want to start with a leader ender. And what this allows your machine to do is create and form a stitch before you sew onto your fabric. If you hold your threads and then stick this under, what's going to happen is most times it will chew this up and get into your stitch plate, or it'll suck up the thread and make a really bad bird's nest on the back side. If you're doing a lot of triangles, I do encourage to pull out a single hole stitch plate if your machine has one. If not, you pull out that leader ender. You can see this is just a scrap of fabric. It's got selvage on it, so I'll never sew with it. So I use these all the time for leader enders. And then we're going to sew. Here's my quotes. You see my quotes? We're going to sew on the lines. And I did the quotes because we're going to loosely sew on the lines. One of the things that I like to do in my processes is give myself fudge space, whether it's minute or a lot. I don't do a lot because that's a waste of fabric. But I do want some comfortability to square down. So remember, I've been talking about accurate processes. I've been talking about how to press, how to cut, and how to sew. So this one, we're not going to be so accurate. We're just going to cut. We're going to sew really close to the line. You can see I'm just like an echo. It's not a very big one, maybe a couple threads over from that line. I hope you guys see that. There we go. So I don't ever sew directly on the line. I give myself that little fudge space. And then I will trim down my 1/2 square triangle, which we're going to do next. So we've got these all sewn, and you see we sew down both lines. And these ones came right off the sewing machine. What you can see already, it's not laying flat. And before I cut and trim and then go on to the next step, I always encourage at this point, anytime you sew, is to rest those stitches. Run it over to the ironing board really quick, press that iron on it so they lay flat. Well, that one's not flat. That one's flat. They lay flat, and then we'll go to the next step. So now we've got our irons, presses, we've got our stitch lines. We're going to go back and cut apart these 1/2 square triangles. Remember, we're making 2 out of 1 square set. Just cut them in half. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. I like to press open. Totally up to you. But these are so small, I probably would encourage it more than normal. If it was a larger 1/2 square triangle, say 4 inches and up, you just take it over the ironing board and gently press it. Don't sit there and put that iron on it and go like this. You don't want to stretch because that's bias. You take that iron and just gently press it down, press and lay it over. But this is why I press open, because I don't have that extra stretch when I do that. I just flip it over, take my finger through it, and then the point of my iron just goes right across it. But I don't, you see, don't stretch it, just kind of let it rest and get that pressed. So once you get it pressed, now we're going to square it down. Again, there are other ways I'm going to show you, and another way how to square it down at this stage versus this stage. But right now, I'm assuming you do not have all those fancy tools that I have. So this is a half square triangle. You're going to pull out your 6-inch ruler. Make sure it has a 45-degree diagonal line on it. That's imperative for squaring down half square triangles. Now, if you don't have a 6.5, look at your 12 by 6.5 inch. It is on there as well. It's also on the larger ruler. But when we're working with units this small, you really want to kind of you want to own tools that help you create efficiency and accuracy with the smaller pieces. So, using this diagonal line, we're going to stick it right there on the ruler. I am not really looking at the numbers yet. I'm just making sure that it's straight on that diagonal. I wish I could zoom in. One day I'll be able to zoom in on this so you can see the lines better. But with the way that I have the camera set up right now, I don't. Hey there, Phil. Good morning to you. Glad you could join us this morning. So I am left-handed. I am going to show this right-handed as well. Let me do the right-handed first since there's more righties than lefties. So if you're right-handed, this is what it's going to look like. Again, on that diagonal. And you can see that I've got a little bit here. And if I look at the 2.5, now this ruler does have the 1/2 inch built in, and that's the side I'm using because I want it to be 2.5 inches. You can see it's also past those lines there as well. What I have seen people do in class is they'll take that point where it says 2.5 inches and they force the edges of the of their half square triangle to fit, and they lop off this stuff. I don't encourage that. Mainly because even if you force it, your lines is not going to be straight on your diagonal. So I would say balance. Remember in the 9-inch, the 9 patches, I talked about balancing and trimming down so it looks even all the way around. Same concept at this level. So I am going to move that diagonal line up a little bit. Seeing that I do need to cut all 4 sides, I am going to cut this side. Hold, again, small, hold your fingers, pressure. This, because of the ruler and the smallness of our block, I am giving myself a 1/2 inch buffer so I don't chop off my fingers. Remember, always the blade on the right side and away from the body. Pull that apart. And you notice I use my fingers. Another thing I see people do a lot is they use their blade to flick things away. Don't do that. That dulls your blade. When you dull your blade, you're going to have to change it more often. It creates nicks in your mat, and don't do that. You notice my hand's still here while I'm yakking because I'm going to make sure everything's clean. So I'm going to lift up, rotate it 45 degrees, and rinse and repeat. Now I do know these 2 sides are straight because I just trimmed them. So I'm just going to line it up on that all the way around and trim again. I'll show it left-handed here. I have 2 squares here for you guys. Pull that away. I have my half square triangle, 2.5 inches. So let me do the other one left-handed, but same thing. All I did is rotate my ruler to the left. Match it up so I have a little bit on the outside here. Can you guys see? Yeah, look at it. That's why I like this rotary cutter too, because I don't have to flip the blade because of the way it's designed. Pull that off, rotate 180. Match it back up, and cut the other 2 sides. So that is what most beginners will use or do for their half square triangles. I will put a PDF also. I have a PDF I've been using for years, probably over a decade, from Pat Sloan, who actually shows you the whole process of doing a half square triangle. Again, there are lots of different ways to do them. Let's go to another way that I like to do. I actually don't prefer to do it on this small of a half square triangle because it's so small. I do like the old standby. So this is one of my favorite tools. It's called the Strip Tube Junior. I also have the regular strip tube, and I use it a lot for half square triangles. Again, I don't like it on this small of a size because of it moves around. But when you use this particular tool, you only have to try. That's the advantage of having tools that create more efficiencies in your processes. So I need a 2.5 inch, and I look at the 2.5 inch line on here, and I match it to the seam line, the sewn line on the fabric. I'm going to see how there's just not a lot of space. That's why I like the bigger ruler for doing this. But, you know, if you have one of these, because you have been sewing for a while. So yeah, I just cut it left-handed, but if you see, I didn't have to rotate anything. So if you're right-handed, you just cut up and down. Just make sure you turn your body away from the blade. And then your half square triangle is squared on the side. The only downside, if you call it a downside, I still don't think it's a downside, is that you have dog ears. So when I press it open and open it up, you're going to have little dog ears that you can easily snip if you want to. But again, on the bigger rulers or bigger blocks, it doesn't matter. So we're going to make 16 of these half square triangles. That is your homework. Now, if you are ambitious and you want to jump ahead and get the rest of the block done, you totally can, but that's going to be tomorrow. I'm going to talk about this, putting it all together. Your whole goal for the next 24 hours to get, besides make your pumpkin pies and all that fun stuff, is to go ahead and make a bunch of half square triangles. So let me get myself all situated. I don't know if you can hear the youngin out there. He's out there screaming. Hopefully the mic hides it down. Larry says my strip rule. Oh, yep. See, good, Larry. I do too. It's just a lot easier. It's 2 cuts. But again, that tells us where we've been doing it for a while, and we kind of know how to make it work. But if you're new and you're still trying to figure out, half square triangles are kind of intimidating because there's angles. Then that's why I want to wait till tomorrow to talk about how to put this together, because there's certain things we need to be watching for, like our 1/4 inch seams on our points. We don't want choppy points, and I want to help you create the non-choppy points. So, and again, there's other tools like the strip tube ruler out there that help cut off dog ears and do other things, but I am a creature of habit. This works for me, so this is what I use. I do try new things every once in a while, but if there is a process that's working for you and you're happy with it and the results are fine, why change? That's my thing. I mean, there are so many things out there to use, but everyone learns differently and everybody works differently. So we have to try them. We don't have to try them all, but we could try a few. Borrow your friends' tools. So, and there's some other tips I can show you, but like I said, as a beginner, this is how I teach. Does anybody have any questions on how to do? I think most everybody here that's watching is experienced. We've done many half square triangles in our lifetime. Like I said, flying geese is the other one that I used to loathe doing flying geese. I don't want to say hate. I just did not enjoy them. They never came out right. I always chopped my points, but now, I do encourage us. There's rulers for that one too, but that's not this class. That's the next session or the next series. Right now, we're in learning the basics. So that is our session for today. I will put the PDF up in the Mighty Networks here momentarily. If you have any questions, you can always leave them in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe. That's a hard word to say. That way you can get notifications when I go live or when I have a new video available. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 Eastern Time Zone, where we're going to talk about putting those squares together. And we're getting close to getting to our putting our rows together part. Pretty excited. I'll have to get a design wall behind me and kind of figure all that out. That's going to be fun. It's going to be lots of fun. So you guys have a great afternoon. I will be live again at 8 p.m. this evening talking about some upcoming clubs and classes, and then getting ready for Black Friday events that we have this week. Cooking and sewing. Yeah, I'm going to be eating tomorrow, but it's after 10 o'clock. You always watch the replay, right, guys? Watch the replay. You guys have a great Tuesday, and if I don't see you before, happy Thanksgiving. If I see you after, happy holidays, right? You're right. You guys take care, and remember, we are friends, fibers, and fun.